What's up, y'all? It's Zems, and welcome to 4 Scary True Hunting Stories. This video is by Mr. Nightmare, so if you guys haven't already, make sure you swoop down to that description box, click on a link, go watch this video in entirety, because I'm going to be pausing, stopping, and talking through the whole thing. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Zems, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. If you guys have any scary hunting stories of your own, let me know down in the comment section. I really appreciate it. I have never been hunting, because I'm a city boy. Hunting horror stories with Zems. Story 1 by Mr. Gordon.
During hunting season, at least once a year, I try to travel up to Maine and rent an Airbnb to go hunting. I never bought my own place because I can't really afford it just for a single trip every year.
I got you.
So doing a weekend rental makes more sense for me. Plus, I'm not exactly an expert. I'm still trying to get more experience. Some years I'd go with my uncle, but in recent years he hasn't been in the best shape health-wise and he's not really up to it anymore. So I've been going alone more recently. Last year, which was 2022 at the time I'm writing this, was the last season that I went hunting. It was November. The Airbnb I rented was near a national park. I arrived late on a Friday because I had to come home from work, get ready, then head out on the road trip. When I pulled up into the long stretch of private dirt road to get to the cabin-type Airbnb, it was pitch black outside, and it was dead silent too. This time of year there's obviously no bugs or crickets left, so the nights are dead silent and dark up there. Especially if the place you're staying is secluded like this one.
I have never been hunted, but I've been to Alabama with some family, and they live next to the woods, boy, and let me tell you, you could not see in front of you. It's some scary shit, bro. You cannot see in front of your face. Like he said, there's no crickets. Sometimes you can't hear anything. It's just you crunching the leaves and the wind blowing. You can't hear anything. You can't see anything. Like, I would be terrified if I ever got stuck in the woods. The only other animal that I'm waiting to see that's on my Pokedex right now is a moose. I'm still in disbelief of how big they are. I need to see one in person to confirm it myself.
Pulled up as close as I could to the cabin, and the owner told me the key would be hidden under the mat. Sure enough, it was there. I brought my 2 bags inside the cabin and unpacked my things onto the bed in the 1 bedroom.
Red flag.
It was a very cozy cabin, and the owner already had the heat turned up for me, which was nice. Maine gets pretty cold up there in November. There was cable and Wi-Fi in this Airbnb, so I set an alarm to get an early start at dawn, which in my opinion is the best time to find deer or even moose if you're lucky. The next morning, I was up as soon as my alarm went off, and I was out in the woods in less than half an hour. Since this was foreign territory to me, I posted up behind a blowdown I found, some knocked over trees. Usually this would now be a waiting game, but I heard a man's voice call from behind me. I had a mini heart attack and turned around to see some man with gray hair, but who looked like he was only 50. He was approaching me slowly. He said slowly in a very angry sounding voice, "What the hell are you doing here?" I responded, "Excuse me?" He said, "Hunting is restricted here." I actually was unaware of this, and when I explained this to him, he said, "I watched you ride up here. You best leave the way you came." This scared me. I said, "What do you mean you watched me ride up here?" He told me he always sees people riding up to that cabin, always out-of-town folk who come up here for the wrong reasons. I apologized to him and told him I'd leave. I grabbed my things and started walking back the way I came, and when I looked behind me, the man was gone, out of sight. I walked back to the cabin, then took my car and drove to a different park that, according to some website, allowed hunting. I posted up there and had a failure of the first half of the day. Around midday, I went back to the cabin to just regroup and have a meal. But when I got back to the cabin, I found that the door was unlocked.
Remember earlier when I said red flag? I said red flag because anybody that leaves the key under the mat is just asking for trouble. That's like the #1 spot people look for. Either you're going to leave it underneath a plant, or you're going to put it underneath the floor mat, or you're going to slide it underneath the little windowsill or whatever, or underneath or top of the door. Like, bro, that's just the main thing. That's why on these horror movies, the first place they get in the car, what they check the little visor thing, and the keys fall out, or they check underneath right here on the side, or they check the glove compartment. It's only so many places the keys are going to be. Like, they're going to find it if they're trying to get in the house. Right now, where my mind is at, it's just like either this guy has done this before, he knows where the key is at, or the guy that rented out the place is the guy that's doing this to him to kind of like, okay, I'm about to scare him off the property and kind of like make money off of him. So I'm kind of like some Scooby-Doo mystery type stuff where they kind of like scare you off the property and then kind of make profit off of you being there already.
I could have sworn I locked it before. When I got inside, I was almost positive certain things had been moved around, and the zipper to my bag was unzipped. I couldn't remember if I left it zipped up or not, but it was typical for me to always keep my bag zipped up. I just checked every room quick before settling down. I was way too hungry to just prepare a light meal, so I drove to the little village nearby and picked up some Chinese takeout.
Ooh.
And I drove right back to the cabin. I was planning on heading back out to the park at dusk. When I got back to the cabin, I just ate my food and went straight to take a nap. After my nap, I headed back out to the park. I spent about an hour walking maybe a quarter mile very slowly, and I wasn't finding anything. My uncle always told me you could find a deer or moose in 10 minutes or 10 days. It just depends on how many are present and being in the right place at the right time. Sadly, luck was not on my side this day, and so when it was starting to get dark, I packed up and started heading back to my truck. It was just a short drive back to the cabin. I cooked the pasta and meatballs I brought with me for dinner as I had the TV on in the background. Then I laid down on the little love seat couch as I ate and watched some old black and white movie.
Oh, damn.
While sitting there, I thought back to earlier, how the door was unlocked and things appeared to have been moved. Only I didn't notice anything missing. I wondered if it was just in my head or not.
No, it's not.
Not long after this, I brushed my teeth and shifted to the bedroom where I began to watch another movie in there, planning on falling asleep to it. I was starting to drift into that half-sleep state, where what was going on in the movie was actually starting to blend into this half-awake dream I was kind of having, until I heard the distinct sound of a door clicking open that snapped me out of my half-sleep. I groggily looked up and noticed the closet door in the room was now cracked open. This immediately woke me up completely. Now, the door being unlocked and belongings potentially being moved did not seem like a coincidence. I waited a moment, then got out of bed, went to my hunting pack,
Well, I'm scared.
grabbed my CZ-75.
I don't know what that
Went
is.
back to the bedroom, turned on the light, and pointed my gun at the closet door. I yelled, "Come out now or I'll shoot." A big part of me still didn't believe there could actually be a person in there, and I thought that I was just being overly cautious. But when the door actually pushed open, I was in pure shock. That older man from earlier in the day stepped out, and his unhappy-looking face switched to a gross smile, missing a front tooth. He said, "You got me." I said don't move as I went to grab my cell phone and call 911. Thank God I had service here. The
Man.
sheriff's department was on their way, and I let them know I was armed and had the intruder at gunpoint. It was an excruciatingly long wait before the sheriff's deputies arrived. During that time, the man was telling me how he's sick of people like me having no respect for the parks up here. I had no idea what he meant, but I wasn't entertaining him. I kept telling him to shut up. When deputies got there, it was an obvious arrest for breaking and entering and possibly robbery, though I don't think he ever actually stole anything from me. The man claimed the
Why?
door was simply unlocked, though I don't know if that was true or if he had somehow picked the lock or even climbed through a window. The Airbnb host said that there were no other hidden keys and that I definitely left the door unlocked. He seemed more concerned about whether anything of his was stolen and putting blame on me as opposed to asking me if I was okay and apologizing for the experience. He said he had no idea who the man could have been, even after getting his name. I still don't think I left the door unlocked, but thank God I was on a hunting trip and had my firearms with me to quickly neutralize the threat.
Man, I'm telling y'all, bro, y'all better arm yourselves up. I'm telling you, bro. If he didn't have that gun, bro, and good thing he's a light sleeper, because that dude was a heavy sleeper. He probably would have taken him out. I don't think he mentioned if the dude had weapons or not, but he definitely was tired of people coming up here and not having respect for the mountain. So this dude spent most of his days watching people go into the forest and stopping them from doing anything they're not supposed to do. But I feel like the guy that rented him out the place in Maine for like the cabin, he should have let him know that you're not able to hunt in that area and kind of gave him like a specific area. Because if he'd have went somewhere else, that would have all been avoided. But then again, who's to say he hasn't done that to the last occupants that, that occupied the house? I'm telling you, it takes a long time for police to get there, man. Like, they're far out. They might be handling another call. They might be busy and they got to turn around and get to you. It might take 5 minutes, and a lot can happen in 5 minutes. We've come to find out that a lot can happen in 2 minutes, but you don't want to be on the other side of that bad 2 minutes. So arm up, get some cameras, do something to protect yourselves out there, people. Story 2 by Emmeline H, I think. Sorry if I butchered your name.
I was 14 when the story took place. It was my first year hunting deer with my family. To be specific, my father, my cousin, and myself. To paint a picture, my blind was 2 miles south of my father's, with his stand being 9 miles southwest to my camp.
Okay.
We drove a four-wheeler about 100 yards away from his stand, which left me with a while to walk before I even got to mine. I live in northern Michigan, and during the winter, it gets dark quickly and early. It was around 4 p.m. when I started to get cold and decided to close up my tent. I was hunting with a .243 rifle that had a pink camo cover on it with a strap around so I could hang it off my back. I closed up my blind zippers and put my garbage away in a bucket I had. As I was throwing away my trash, I heard a couple leaves crumble, so I immediately turned my head up to see if it was a deer. After about a minute, I brushed it off as a squirrel or a bird. Disappointed, I closed my blind and headed to my father's. As I was taking my first steps out of my blind, I could see a fresh pathway brush through the leaves. It was a wide path, not from a small animal or even a deer. I immediately started thinking a bear or a wolf, so I started speed walking to where my dad was. I started to panic as it started to get even darker and I was still roughly a mile away. I was just walking as I was stopped in my tracks by one of the most haunting and horrifying noises I'd ever heard. The best way to describe it was a bear/man that was being murdered. It sounded roughly 150 yards back as I started to run.
Oh, I got
Running
chills.
with boots and thick hunting gear was hard with 20 pounds on my back.
I bet.
Fear pushed me through and I didn't stop. Around 25 seconds later, I was still running when I heard it again. This time it was louder and closer. At this point, it was completely dark out, with the moon being the only source of light. I turned around with my headlight, and what I saw is still the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Wendy Williams?
Around 50 yards away, I saw a black figure in the dark, illuminated by the moonlight behind it. It was around 10 feet tall and skinny. Without thinking twice, I started running while trying to get my gun off my back. I didn't know where I was running, but I just ran. I ended up on a road that I recognized as Rabbit Road, the road that connects my camp with the entrance to the hunting area. I ran on the road until I got to my camp. By the time I got into sight of my cabin, I turned around again and saw it again, this time further away. It was still standing up, and I can only describe it as a tall, black, skinny figure. It had long arms and long legs.
A werewolf?
As I got on my cabin steps, I threw up from exhaustion and continued to vomit for about a minute, as I later then passed out.
Shit, I wouldn't even made it back to the cabin. I would have been like, no one would have been no lie to tell the story, bro. I would have been fresh meat for whoever that was, bro. 10 feet tall, so you know the strides on that thing must be monstrous, bro. You know it had to be, bro. 10 foot tall, long arms, long legs, bro. So whatever that was just decided not to chase him. It didn't even try to kill him because he just stood there and watched him run back to wherever he was running to. Because I'm pretty sure if he wanted to catch this dude, he could. I don't know. Could be a Wendigo, could be a werewolf, could be Bigfoot. We don't really know, bro. Could be Slender Man himself.
Woke up to the sound of my dad's four-wheeler turning into the cabin driveway. I started crying as I ran up to him, hugging him. I quickly told him the story of what happened and how I ran back without stopping. He didn't believe me at first, but as we got settled inside, his face started to change as he saw the desperation in my eyes. I didn't sleep that night, or for weeks after. People have told me it was most likely a bear, or I was just seeing things, but I know what I saw.
Yeah, facts.
I'm older now, and I only hunt with someone with me. I also hunt with a bigger gun because it gives me reassurance that I could shoot something larger. As I'm writing this was the most scary experience of my life.
Yeah, I can only imagine, bro. I would never go hunting or anywhere by myself. I don't travel alone. I don't go anywhere alone, bro, unless it's the grocery store. Story 3. Alex Terla Blanca.
It was a Friday evening and I was getting home from school. I was 13 years old and was really excited to go hunting. I love hunting, especially the ranch we go to in Alice, Texas. I've been going there since I was 4, and I have so many memories of the place. It was my grandpa, my dad, and I going. There were going to be a few other people, like the ranch owner's family. We were packed up and ready to go. It was deer season, my favorite season.
I heard deer is
The
good.
feeling of seeing a big deer right in front of your eyes is a wonderful feeling, and of course shooting it. People say that it's wrong to kill animals, but I disagree if you're actually eating it. We got to the ranch and it was 10 p.m., so it was pretty dark out there. The ranch is 300 acres, I believe, and the campsite is an old little shack, probably the size of a normal bedroom. There is electricity there, but it's not a huge cabin where most hunters sleep in. However, there are little beds there, but one time my dad found a huge snake shed in one of the beds when I was little, so from then on we sleep in a tent. The camp is surrounded by woods, with a little field up ahead, probably a little less than the size of a football field. We use that field for dove hunting. Anyhow, we unloaded and chatted for a while around the campfire, telling jokes and whatnot, when we heard this scream. It was the most disturbing thing I'd ever heard. It sounded like a human hybrid or something.
Nope.
The scream sounded not too far away. All of us jumped from our seats and looked at each other. Every man there was freaked out. I could see it in their eyes. The ranch owner was the first one to say, "What the fuck was that?" He then told us and one of his family members to go check it out.
What? I thought he was going to be like, told everybody else, let's go in the house or something. He said, go check it out. Shit. I'll never step foot on your farm again. Either we all going or I'm going to sit my ass right here next to this lit campfire. Talking about something, go check it out. It's your farm. I'm just a visitor. I'll be right behind you. I'll hold the flashlight for you. But if you think I'm about to walk in and go check that out, shit.
He's a pretty old guy in his 70s, so that's why we went to go check it out.
Shit.
We took my grandpa's ATV and did a quick search around the perimeter, only to find nothing. I was still traumatized, and I was even scared to go in the blind by myself. As all hunters know, we have to wake up before dawn and get up into the blind to be unseen by the deer. I went to sleep in the tent with a gun right beside me. I woke up to the alarm and got ready. I was scared of being left alone in the dark, even though it was only an hour or two before dawn breaks. I was still petrified by the scream, and it still echoed in my mind today. My grandpa dropped me off at the blind with his ATV and left. My dad was already in his position. My grandpa's not a soft grandpa. He expects you to know it and do it. Him being him, he just left me in the dark, expecting me to find my way up to the blind myself. So I began climbing up the ladder and began navigating with just my hands.
Oh, shit, yo.
I got into the blind and waited for the sun to peek out. 20 minutes passed and it was still dark out when I noticed something in the middle of the trail. I couldn't see well, so I thought it was the right time to use a night vision sight that my uncle had given me. I was excited, expecting a big deer, but when I put my eye into the sight, what I saw still haunts me today. I don't care if you believe me or not.
I believe you.
I was expecting a deer, only to find a person walking towards the woods. It was distorted looking, but had the same outline of a person. I don't know how it spotted me, but I saw it turn and face towards me. Now the night vision is not super clear, so I couldn't see its face, but I could see it was looking straight at me. Then what I heard next will stick with me for the rest of my life. It gave out the same exact blood-curdling scream as the night before, only louder.
Bang!
At
I
that
would have
moment,
shot
I
it.
cannot describe the fear I felt. The word fear is not enough to describe how I felt. I managed to break free from whatever shock I was in, and managed to grab the .22 and started to fire the entire clip into the path it was standing in. I was still frightened, so I got my rifle and fired all the rounds into the path. When I looked back into the night vision, it was gone. I started to get texts and calls like crazy, mostly from my dad. I told him what happened, and he had heard it too, and so did my grandpa. We still go there to hunt, but it has not been the same peaceful hunt. Now when I hunt, I go with my dad, because I'm scared that thing might come back. I don't know what that thing was, but whatever it was, it survived 25 rounds from a .22 and 4 rounds from a .243. Because when we went to go check, there were no signs of blood or anything, not even footprints. I know it was still dark when I fired all those rounds, but I know for sure at least one of them had to hit whatever that thing was.
Maybe, bro. When you terrify, a lot looks can be deceiving. Maybe he thought he hit it and he didn't. One thing I would have said after that trip, bro, that shit would have turned me into a vegetarian. One Cobb salad, please. You spot me and you screamed at me and I shot you and you still missed? Or you hit it and it ran off? Like, I don't know. Because one thing I did say or did notice that he said he shot, but he didn't see which way it took off or see what it took off. Because if you fire at that thing and you don't know which way it went or you don't know if you hit it or not, so he just fired a couple of shots and then switched and fired some more. So who knows, man? But I felt like he didn't really keep sight on it when he shot. I think it was kind of more like, oh my God, he's looking at me, and he, you know, kind of caught him off guard. So who knows? I wouldn't be in the woods in the first place to begin with. I'm talking about what I would have done. So this would never happen to me because I don't be in the woods like that. So I would love to with 4 or 5 experienced hunters, not just by myself.
It was the fall of 1986.
Oh shit.
I was 23 years old. I'd never really been scared in the woods before, honestly. I always felt like the wilderness was my safe place, somewhere I could go and relax and get away from the stresses of life. I've never seen a Bigfoot or skinwalker or any kind of boogeyman in the woods. As a lineman for a small town in West Kentucky, I have seen crazy. Being a small muni, we all had to wear a lot of hats, including utility disconnects. It wasn't fun, but it was part of the job, and there was a lot of crazy, but never in the woods. My only real hobbies were hunting and fishing. Back then, it was easy to find a really good place to hunt just by stopping and asking the landowner for permission. Most were eager to have the deer population thinned out as they were really destructive, eating young soybean crops, And this was coal country, and back in the 50s there was a lot of strip mining that left a lot of land unusable for building and farming, so much of it was open for hunting. It was October 1986. Daylight savings time hadn't happened yet, and it was still daylight till just after 7 p.m. I left work at 4 and ran home to change into my camo. It was bow season in Kentucky, my favorite season. I was gonna hunt in an area that was special to me. It was in an area we'll call Coon Ridge. This was a very remote area with broken farmland and wooded areas. After parking, I decided not to unload my three-wheeler and just walk the 3/4 of a mile to where I was going to hunt. I was using a Summit climbing stand, so I had to carry my stand and my bow, as well as my fanny pack with my knife and flashlight. I had to walk halfway around the cornfield. The corn had not been cut yet, so I stayed in the lane left by the farmers so that they could get their equipment to the upper end of the field. The field was rectangular, and the upper end was a much higher elevation than the bottom, where I had to cross a creek with shin-deep water to enter the field. At the top of the field, the right-hand corner was where I was going to enter the woods. It was the highest point of the field. I had to pick my way through a thick blackberry thicket, but managed to find a game trail that led me through, and it finally opens into a hillside with large trees.
I guess this is where you're supposed to go when you go hunting. Right now, he's speaking gibberish to me because I don't know anything about hunting or the highest point. I think the highest point is the best point for hunting. I don't know. My hunters out there, let me know what he's talking about specifically with this story, because he's talking about blackberry pickets and game trails and stuff. I don't know. It's like trigonometry right now. I don't know what he's talking about.
After finding a tree suitable for my climbing stand, getting set up, and a little climb, I was ready to hunt. I love to watch nature. The deer hunting was just an excuse to be in the woods. As a lineman, I had no fear of climbing high, so I would get as high as I could. This time I was up around 20 feet before the canopy started blocking my view. It was around 5:30 when I was settled in my stand and had an arrow knocked. I regularly stayed in my permit of the pale moon. I saw it. Now when I walked in, I came up the left side of the field around 200 yards to the end, turned right, and walked another 100 yards. And where I was, it was higher on the ground, and I could see around the field where I came in. When I walked in, there was nothing in the trail. I hadn't heard any equipment or ATVs, so I was shocked to see something in the trail. And no small something either. It looked 6 feet wide and 6 feet tall, just standing there about halfway up the field trail. It was the only way out, so I never hesitated. I started walking back to the trail, turned toward whatever it was standing there, hoping it was just a strange shadow, but it wasn't. I grabbed an arrow from the quiver, remembering my knife was in my three-wheeler. I walked fast and never broke stride. 100 yards away, and it didn't move or make a sound. I walked loudly straight towards it for 200 yards, all the while thinking it's really there, in my trail, blocking my only way out. As I got closer, I could make out what it was. It was two people standing side by side, and this unnerved me even more. It was 9:15, 40 degrees out here. Okay, this is it. But they never turned around, never even moved their heads. I crossed the creek, and within another 100 yards, I made it back to my truck. I was even more uneasy approaching my truck. It was just so quiet. All I could think of was someone waiting to ambush me, so I kinda eased up on it very quietly and watched it for maybe 3 minutes before approaching it. It seemed fine.
Bro, he's bold as hell. I would never made it to the point to walk up to him. I would have found an alternate path, or I'd went my ass right back up that tree and wait till next morning. I'm not about to just walk past two people standing up on top of the hill, bro. My instincts would have kicked in something, bro. I know I'd be talking about I would fight, bro. No, something ain't right. And you're gonna just sit there and walk past. You're in your 20s, it's 40 degrees outside, and y'all just standing still looking down the path. Either that was somebody that passed away or something like that, or he walked into some shit that he wasn't supposed to be a part of, or some kind of like cult. I just see this is what I'll be. I'll be like one to be adventurous, bro, and explore, but it's just like Mr. Nightmare and other like Netflix series and documentaries. It just ruined it for me, bro. It makes me just want to sit in the house, bro. Like, it's crazy.
Into my truck. As I left, I tried to figure out how they got here because I never saw another vehicle. I tried to just put it behind me. But the next day at work, during lunch, I was gonna run and get some food when I noticed all 4 of my tires on my truck were low, and after inspecting them, they all had around 10 to 15 roofing nails in them. I had to put tubes in them to get home. Something odd was going on in those woods. Somebody most certainly did this to my tires while I was parked in them. After this, it always felt like someone was watching me when I was hunting in that area.
Hunt trip over.
That's why I stopped going alone, and I never parked off the main gravel road again. I never found out who those 2 young people were, or who punctured my tires.
That was a setup. I know exactly what they was trying to do. They was trying to pop my man's tire, hoping that he wasn't going to inspect his vehicle. He was going to ride back out there, right, to do his hunting trip. They was going to ambush him. And then they're going to be like trying to investigate and look for him. And they was going to be like, oh, you know, he got stranded out here and tried to find his way back and got lost in the forest. Nah, they tried to set him up so he got to go back and then get stranded out there. And they was going to try to do something to him, bro. They were trying to figure out which way he came from, which way he was hunting. They was about to set my man's up. But this video is by Mr. Nightmare, man. If you guys enjoy, man, make sure you go stop by and go show your support to him. I am going to leave a link to the original video down in the comment section. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And no one told you today, I love you.